School District, the
No, but I'm glad it's
Stay away.
Dean, you did okay? Enjoy the conference? Okay, hold on, let's see.
Tom, are you ready or you're live? Okay, so we'll be back for. Okay, but we're ready to go. Okay. Yes. What kind of time? What kind of time do you got? Okay. Well, we'll start this work session. We start everything with the Pledge of Allegiance, so you'll stand. Thanks. Here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What we are here today to do is to hear the budget requests from the District Attorney's Office and also the Health Department. District Attorney has some court appearances, so we're changing the schedule around where he goes first and then the Health Department will go this. So, and whoever is speaking, you need to speak into that microphone and pick it up on the YouTube. So.
Thank you, and I appreciate my colleagues from the Health Department allowing me to go first. Unfortunately, judges in two different counties, they sometimes have a habit of controlling my life, my professional life. Let me start out in several ways. I'll describe the packet in front of you, but I want to talk about two things, several things in particular. Number one, and it's thank yous going out to both sets of county commissioners, but in different ways. First of all, the county commissioners in Los Angeles. I want to thank you all for support you gave our office as it relates to 1A. I know you were giving support to 1B and 1C. I've got to tell you that it's my belief that because of all the support, the consistent effort publicly that we made in all the different forums where you were there and we were there, that I think the citizens, not just the citizens, the voters responded as we all see positively.
Hold on a second, Henry. Let me turn this on. Turn it on.
Well, the guy closest to the electronics couldn't handle it because the people who usually help you are sitting at another table.
Right.
I want to be at that other table. It looks like it's the fun table.
Okay, now.
All right, so again, thank you to the county commissioners from Los Angeles. It's our combined effort in the public forums, supporting each other, supporting the needs of the community that I think help lead to the positive results in 1A, 1B, and 1C. As you know, I was there with you all, and again, I think we all found a way to help the voters understand what's going on. Because we're from the county commissioners. I want to thank you for stepping up when you did, especially when I first started, because you had a budget that had been a traditional budget. There was a request to add additional funds so that I could hire a senior experienced prosecutor as opposed to a very young entry-level prosecutor. And then there was the additional funds which allowed us to, working with the Sheriff Department, start to deal with some of the discovery issues. That's why if I think off the top of my head, the budget was about, and I know John will be able to help correct me with the numbers, about $130,000, but by the time we added the two amounts, $30,000 for the senior prosecutor and another $30,000 plus for the discovery, E-Force person, that got us to about 199,000, give or take. Let me first explain the packet in front of you. And the packet in front of you has two different, for both counties, two different proposals or two different aspects. Let me first start with Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County, when we were first putting the budget together, Miller, come on up, because I'm going to have Miller Hudson come up with me. The other thing I want to do is I want to thank Miller Hudson. As you know, Miller came with me from Denver. He has spent the last almost full year helping me try to bring management, fiscal discipline to the office. And then he took a leave of absence and with others helped work the campaign. Miller is going to go back to Denver. It's not that he doesn't like the 3rd Judicial District. It's, it's that he has helped accomplish in the first year what we wanted to accomplish, both in operation. And so I want to publicly thank him for his service. I know he's interacted with you all, John and Pete, with the two of you. We couldn't have been and done what we've done in this last year without him. So I wanted to take a moment to thank him for that. Let me explain why for Los Angeles County there are two budgets and probably requests for two areas to discuss. There will be three for Huerfano, given what did not happen in the initiative. It's disappointing in Huerfano, but you all may be able to tell me better than I. To come within 200 votes of passing is pretty significant, which to me means if we'd had 101 who maybe we would have reached differently, we'd have a different result. But still, given all the challenges that I know in Huerfano County that you had, I still think it was a successful campaign. One of the pieces I think we need to do is spend more time educating the voters there as to what we've done, what our office has done, and what I've done. And that's what we'll spend the next year doing. So now let me come back to Los Angeles. You will see two budget proposals, or two proposals. One is approximately $671,000. The other is $580,000. Let me explain the difference for the two. Miller, in our work, when we first looked at this for the initiative very early on, we tried to capture what the revenues would be. Our best estimate was $580,000. But it's my understanding Miller was the one who advised me that in his review and that estimate, it was an estimate based only on sales tax. As we were out on some of the different forums, and I've held several with the members of the marijuana industry, I've received word from them, they had an estimate for our portion of the sales tax that it would probably generate another $125,000. So the budget proposal that I later submitted that you have in front of you, which is 671, is reflective of essentially less than 700,000, and more reflective of what I tried to develop as to the needs by way of staffing for the operation. In terms of that budget, the other piece that appears to exist is essentially a $31,000 shortfall that, as best we can tell, when working with our accountants, is a carryover from my predecessor. I do know, and it was confusing to me, that when he left office, I think he gave you a profit loss statement that seemed to suggest that he had a $30,000 surplus. I did not believe it existed. My preliminary conversation with the then auditors didn't seem to believe that there's a $30,000 estimate. At best, we have been able to identify what I think has happened is my salary, the state portion of my salary, comes in two tranches, approximately $61,000 per tranche, 2 times a year. It appears that what may have been going on is an anticipation of the DA salary in advance for a preceding year based upon what was anticipated. So if you take $60,000, 61, 60 or so, and you subtract 30,000, you come up with 31,000, which appears to be, when we're talking to our new accountant, to be what is the anticipated shortfall. So that's why I've built into the budget a one-time only in the proposal provision to take care of that issue. Now, when having said that, I will still manage to the dollar so that if I don't have to access that amount, whatever amount I'm able to, through cost savings and other things, to recognize, I will reflect, and if granted, any remainder from that one time would be refunded back, carried over into whatever is the future.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
What about the audit? Have you done an audit? Has there been an audit done?
There was an audit, actually, for the first time, and I think I reflected it before, for the first time ever, we were able to submit the audit papers to the to the auditor who does that before July. And we got a clean bill of health on the audit. And again, part of this is this issue between cash budgeting and accrual budgeting and how you do cash flow. Again, I'm not casting aspersions, I'm just saying that as we look at the budget right now, there appears to be that issue.
And I understand that, but what does the audit say? What does the audit say where that 31,000 is or isn't?
It doesn't focus on that one particular point. But again, because again, you can carry over either a surplus or an accrual liability from one year to another year, and it doesn't necessarily say that you've done anything invalid in terms of accounting principles. But we have changed accountants. This budget will reflect one part of bookkeeping that will help us be better in the process. And regrettably, the changeover between the accountants was not smooth. It was hard for us to get information, for the new accountant to get information for about 30 to 60 days. We ultimately got the information, but that's created a problem in terms of only recently being able to identify this particular issue. The other thing that the new accountant is doing that we did not have access to is we immediately have the same accounting platform as this new accountant. And she is authorizing us to access that so that we will be able, I in particular, the bookkeeper, will be able on a daily basis to in fact look at our own ledgers and know exactly where we are. Something that, as I know Pete would tell you, is very critical for any agency to operate.
Commissioner Loudon, when I first saw that, we had received copies of both 2015 audit for the DA's office and 2016, and I went through the 2016 audit very carefully. The one area in which it specified about revenues was that the current auditor stated that per statute that they were allowing an open window of 90 days by which they would record revenue after December 31st. So it's really quite conceivable that part came in, and I looked in conjunction with that, the letter that was provided to Commissioner Lopez by the former DA, and it does appear to me that money was backfilled the prior year.
The 31,000.
The 30,000, yes, and likely should not have been.
Let me ask a question for Christy. Government accounting, we can't back pay from previous year, right? Once that budget is set for 2017, 2016, can we backfill it in 2018 for what the deficit is? Or is that?
No, you mean you're talking about Los Angeles County?
Yeah.
Anyone, including myself, not just within the county.
Any of our budget.
I think the issue becomes if you carry a liability over because you've used next year's monies to cover part of it, that's still a current liability. And that's why I'm saying for 2018, because we've carried it over through all of 2017, for 2018, that liability will be zeroed out by a $31,000 budget increase one time. We'll make sure all the accounting for 2017 and 2018 is all appropriate. But again, we're still trying to discern exactly where that figure comes from. It may be less, but I wanted to give you a heads up. So that's the first part. The second part of what I wanted to state is what you see in the proposal, both the 580 that you've seen before during the initiative, and the one that is essentially, I think, as I said, 671,000, which is actually 640,000, which is identified by way of staff. Assume staff, an increase in staff numbers, because we're short of people to do the work that needs to be done. I've told, because I think it's Commissioner Lopez asked the question, well, are you going to hire immediately? My statement to him, even before I understood where you all maybe, was I recognize, like anybody else, that for the first 90 days, we're not going to know exactly what the amount that is generated by the sales tax, primarily the first dedicated to the district attorney's office, is going to be the same with the 1%. I will not be hiring new employees any sooner than April 1. That, I believe, is a matter of prudence and caution.
And when we discussed that, it raised a question for me. If you don't have those employees for 3 months, how are you going to pay for them next year? If it's not being an expenditure, and it's
well, again, there's a difference between the revenue we get and how I expend against that revenue projection. So what I'm saying is even though we might get the revenue in the first quarter that would be the salaries, the budget you were seeing is an annualized budget based upon the best projection.
so you'll have a nest egg then. You'll have those expenditures.
There would be a surplus. And when you say a nest egg, let me come back to one of the commitments I made, which is another statement that is very important. Because when you see the figure that I had by way of my projection of what the revenues would be, marijuana and sales tax, I want to come back to the very first fundamental statement I made, and it's a commitment that I made. The current 177,000 that comes from property tax, I am not building into this budget. By that I'm saying I made the commitment to the commissioners that absent unique circumstances, which only means that we're way off on the projection on the 580 or the 700,000. That is money that you all have that I won't be counting on because the office will be working under 1A. So even though it looks like 580 goes to 640 to 671, it's not because of the 177,000 in the past year out of property tax that you've appropriated to the office. I want to make that very clear.
And you're estimating that based on marijuana revenues?
Yes, and as I
you were told
told
by somebody in the industry, or was it the Department of Revenue?
Let me give you two sources, and again, I've talked to Pete just briefly because I know you all may have had an estimate. I couldn't tell from your estimate on the 1% whether or not you included marijuana or sales tax. All I'm telling you is our estimate was just at the 580 was just sales tax. When I met with members of the local marijuana industry, they were identifying for the half-cent sales tax. They believe, based upon their current experience, that that's 125,000. So if you add 580 and 125,000, that's where I get to the 700.
Okay, and we have, and our advice from our council is that what was on that ballot, 580, is all you can get the first year.
No.
After that, well, this is what our council has said, and
I
I
will
know
tell
you're a
you-
lawyer too, so.
No. I will tell you, and I've read it. And I've read it, and the language says 5% sales tax, $580 estimated in the first year, plus any additional revenue generated by the sales tax. So I don't think the revenue department views it differently than I do. I'm not going to argue over that right now, because I think, as I said, we'll start to know in the first 3 months what it generates. But I will be very clear, that opinion is not correct. I will not be constrained by it. But whatever the amount of money generated is, if it's less than 580, the budget has to be reduced accordingly. If it's more than 580, I've given you the other budget that I believe is supportable. We're still, even on my projection, 30,000 excess in the first year, 60-some-odd thousand in the out year. But I don't think we're here to argue over that. I think the first part is let's see what the history is. And from there, determine. What I've given you is the staff allocation that I believe is necessary to perform the job. So that's for Los Angeles. Let me come back to Huerfano. First two pieces that I did on Huerfano on the sheets that you see, one is the 33% based upon what is Los Angeles. I gave that to you so you could see how it would look in terms of people and function. I understand that you only have the money you have, and so I gave that as the first piece. The second budget that I give you is one that is my estimation of what is necessary minimally to do the job. Now, I give that to you because it's my presentation to you of what I believe is appropriate to serve the public safety interests. But I come back to the point that you only have the money you have. Whatever you have, I will live with in terms of the money that you allocate. I've indicated to you that it's my best judgment and request that it be no less than $133,000 plus the $30,000, which is the added salary for the prosecutor. And then it's the added request for the one person that was helping out with the sheriff's department, the E-Force, to be continued. And I'll explain exactly why I'm asking for that. And I'll bring it back to the context of what we've been able to do with Los Angeles and the $50,000 I got from the city of Trinity. I was able to hire an investigator, full-time. Because in Los Angeles, I'm able to have an investigator full-time, that investigator is helping to shore up for some of the limitations law enforcement has. To follow up in investigations that once law enforcement files, I have the obligation in order to get the case to disposition or trial. And it is because of that full-time investigator that we have done the following things. My predecessor, and I've described to you, I can go through criminal histories of current defendants, and I can go through 20 pages, typically, and we'll always see cases, felony filed, dismissed. Felony filed, disposition, misdemeanor.
And I appreciate that, but I don't think we need to talk about the previous one. We're going forward from here.
Commissioner, I'm just trying to explain why I'm asking for an additional position in Huerfano. Because we have changed, because I've done that, as of last Friday, I've accomplished in both districts 39 felony convictions. All but maybe 10 are going to go to the Department of Corrections. On Friday, I also accomplished, and we need to put the paperwork, another agreement to a person agreeing that he is a habitual criminal and the sentencing range will be 16 years to 24 years. That's in this county. The reason is I've been able to have a full-time investigator, an additional person. That's why I'm saying to the county commissioners in Huerfano, if I can have those resources, the cases and the dispositions will be better. You all heard just recently about the situation related to the marijuana case. Let me give you a little information that was not reported. We subpoenaed 3 officers for the preliminary hearing. 1 deputy showed up. 2 other deputies did not. They had made holiday plans. The reports were not that clear. And had we had clarity in the reports, the prosecutor there would have demanded that at least 1 more of the deputies appear, or we would have tried to get a continuance. As you know, because we went with 1 deputy, several of the cases were dismissed. Had out of that office down there had an investigator, or the person I'm calling is the other position, we could have been on top of that, ahead of that, and helped the sheriff's department with better information, better reports, and gone into the preliminary hearing better prepared. That's why I'm talking about that additional position. I have experience here that demonstrates that when we have that, we can accomplish those results. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that's the functional reason why, even without the initiative there passed, I'm talking about some very core additions to the staff down there. I'm proud of what we've done. It's no longer like the past, but it could be better. But my request is to always ask for what I need. Not to blame anyone, because I do know you have competing demands. But this office will no longer be the subject of criticism for lack of confidence within our office or for the lack of full and adequate performance by law enforcement. There is no more performance issue in terms of the staff in the DA's office. But we are going to continue vigorously to work in improving our disposition rates and our felony trial rates. Because the better we do there, the better I think it helps coming back to both counties on economic development, on public safety. So that's the description between the three budgets for Huerfano, the two budgets for Los Angeles. And again, whether it's either one, we will live within the revenues that are available. We have a different story in Los Angeles because we think it's much different than the past. Whatever you commissioners find that you have the capacity to support.
Let me ask you a question, Henry, so I can wrap my head around this. When we first did the half-cent evaluation and it came out $580,000, I believe the marijuana was included. But for sake of argument on it, let's look at a broader picture of the 580, and then we add the 120. Is that the state pays you 120 a year for you personally, your salary?
No, it's 124 roughly.
Okay, so 125,000. So that with the 580 and that, now we're looking at 700,000, and then an additional 100,000, approximately, so about 800,000 for your budget. Is what we're looking at.
No.
We got to put all the numbers together,
right.
all of them together. I think you have separation and shadowing with
what
this.
I have presented to you in the budget to you is the actual county costs for everyone in the office. I've not put the 125 or 125 from the state. You have an additional obligation to top up from that. That's probably another, given benefits, maybe another 20,000. That's what's reflected in that budget, is the county cost for every single person that's in the office.
So the 20% you're talking about is your 118?
No. The 118 includes the portion for me, plus the additional prosecutor, the cost of the prosecutors in the office. And again, I understand and we can move forward as to what the larger budget is, but what I've done and reflected to you is the FTE, the administrative cost, and the cost to the county.
I think when the 580 was estimated, I think marijuana was included in that.
I'm just telling you that when Mr. Miller evaluated the information, he can come up and explain that it did not include, in our estimate, marijuana.
Thank you. For the record, Miller Hudson, Administrator for the DA's office. When we were preparing the half-cent, of course, at that point in time, the commissioners hadn't gotten around to looking at a 1% themselves. I contacted the Department of Revenue. They gave me the $580,000 estimate, and they specifically said, we cannot provide the information on marijuana. So then I contacted the Division of Marijuana. And as you know, there's about 4 different taxes being levied against marijuana. There's state taxes, there are local taxes, there's even an excise tax in some counties. And what their response was, we can't answer that question. They are not accounting for marijuana monies at the state level at this point in time and dividing them out. And what I was told was that, well, it'll be more than 25,000, but we didn't know what it would be. So we didn't include it because we couldn't provide an accurate estimate. When we met with the retail shops, they had a good sense of what a half cent would raise, And that was where they gave us and confirmed my back of the envelope calculation, that would be in the vicinity of $120,000, $125,000 if sales remain level as compared to this year. But it was not accounted for in our estimate that went on the ballot.
Let me come back, without arguing over who was right on the estimate. I mean, I think the other piece is we will know better by the end of March. We, county commissioners, all of us will know better by the end of March. And that's why I think we're going to have to come back and review the budget at the end of March, so that we can actually work with not projections, but actual information, number one. And number two, that's why the other piece that I'm saying is the thing I'm not doing, even though I need it. You know, I've gone a year now without more. I'm not going to do any new hires, added FTE, until no sooner than April 1. The one difference that I have to do, I believe in good confidence, is number one, the staff salaries that we have are well below even the county's salaries. The entry-level clerk salary, as I understand it, is $14.70 an hour. Up until I got there, the clerk salaries were, in Frank's budget, $6.80 an hour, probably below the minimum wage. We brought it up to $9.30, but I cannot go after January 1 without making the salaries commensurate, not only with the county, but the information I have from other DA's offices. It is unconscionable for me to do that. I understand why we did that, because we didn't have revenues, but it is not a raise. I want to be very clear, it is not a raise. It is salaries based upon work performed and commensurate compensation. But as I said, we will have to come back. I urge that you set it up so that we come back in March based upon January's history, February's history, and March's history as it relates to what in fact are all of our sales taxes, but for us, the half sales tax will in fact generate. Yeah.
I've got a bit of a conundrum as far as Huerfano County, and that is the conclusion I have to draw is that either the voters in Huerfano County felt that the county had given a sustainable amount of money for the DA's office, which I don't necessarily believe that, but or that they didn't buy the message that was being put out, and I'm not sure which. And you know, sometimes it takes a while.
I think the other, and I apologize for it, the other piece may be show me first. We might believe what you're saying, but give us a little bit of a history and a backdrop within which for us to make a more informed decision. And I say that only because I'm not here to blame the voters. I'm not here to blame anyone for what happened, but it's the reality.
Yeah. I'm just talking from our standpoint, looking at the budget now. You know, we did add 30,000 last year. My hope personally is that we can do that again. But going beyond that's problematic for me. And part of that is competing priorities, as you talked earlier. You know, we're trying to get some of our staff up to above poverty level, Medicaid. So, you know, we'll have to wrestle with that a little bit. But
Commissioner, I respect that. I understand that. What the only point I'm saying though is from today forward, next year forward, if I can't accomplish the work because I don't have the staff, I'm going to be vocal about that.
Sure.
Not blaming anyone, but then the voters need to understand if they want more public safety, this is the constraint I'm facing. I will leverage both financial resources and other things as much as I can. I will not dip into cross-county revenues.
No, I understand.
I mean, no, you're not asking me to.
No.
You were very gracious when the circumstances financially was different. But as I said, we're a different office. We have made progress. There's more progress I believe. But we're not going to step off of our responsibility, and I recognize that.
And I guess a final question, Henry, is between the DA's office and the sheriff's office, and I'm talking particularly about Huerfano County, what if anything can we as commissioners do, and what can you do personally to help that relationship? Because I sense from what you've been saying that there's some rubs there.
Let me state two things. One of which is Sheriff Newman and I met within the last 30 days. And we're not blaming each other for anything. We're committed to work with each other. As you know, Sheriff Newman has added responsibility, number one, geographically. Number two, he has a large number of new deputies. And they are working hard, they're trying hard. We're getting training from the federal law enforcement in both counties. We're working on that. The fundamental challenge and problem we have is that with all the crimes that they have, the work they have to do, it is a hard thing for them to just do the investigation. We can talk about improving the reports and all those other things, but it is hard for them to just do it. The problem I have is once the complaint is filed or the arrest is made and we're set for trial, I have investigatory needs for that particular case. And that's why the investigator has been used, not only in the initial, even before charges are filed, because we've been working very well shoring up the limitations the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department has through the investigator that I have. But once the case is filed, I can ask for the sheriff to continue to support it, and I know he would try, but the problem is he has all the other existing, and that's why the investigator allows me to have a person go out, follow-up interview, follow up in chasing down reports. That's why I need that person in my office, because having had that person in the office here, out of those 39 that I'm talking about, the large majority of those felony convictions are coming out of Los Angeles County because I'm working the cases, the investigator working the case. Not our criticism. It was not an issue of us fighting with each other. It's just that where we're in the system calls for different needs and different resources.
Gotcha.
Henry, the city announced that they were going to give award you another $50,000 for this coming year. Since we won the election, that is a two-part question. We plan to give that back to the city. And the second part, when we discussed about how we were out on the campaign trail, we were talking at the community forums and stuff. But when we discussed this, or when you were discussing 1A, you discussed that when we exceed $580,000, we go to public safety. And my concern is, don't shake your head, no, you didn't say that.
I will tell you what I said, because I know what I said. I said it was estimated at 580. I said anything more than the budget that is
Those are public
appropriate.
safety entities, and now we're saying
Anything
different.
more than the budget that is appropriate for the district attorney's office goes for public safety. That's the way it's written. That's what I've said. I've always said it's an estimate.
Yes. Okay, back to...
And I will tell you, I was specifically asked by citizens, is this a stealth way of giving more money to other departments? And it wasn't. And it didn't.
Okay, back to Huerfano County again. Last year you did ask us for more money for another prosecutor, which we did come up with more money. And to say last year, I think overall the estimated budget was around $199,000, and so far this year we've given you $212,000. So we've kind of even gone over and above what we thought. And now you're saying that some of the cases you couldn't do anything with because you didn't have an investigator. We had told you before you even filed to put this on the ballot, people want to see some progress, and without seeing progress, it's probably not going to happen. And I think that's exactly what happened. There was a different scenario here in Los Angeles County because of the fact that they were almost to shut down. So people were saying, okay, we got to help our county. So they were gracious enough to help the county and help you at the same time, which was good. I mean, I can't say it was bad, but in Huerfano County with this new prosecutor and all, he had 125 felony charges filed so far this year and 8 misdemeanors. But with that, there was 20 felony pleas entered, right? And and misdemeanor 31, which there's 52 pleas entered, and there was 23 dismissals. That didn't show that we were doing anything else or any extra with the new prosecutor that came in. And last year that we gave you more money for the prosecutor, it was a 1-year thing to kind of see how this is going out. Now, we don't have the money to be giving you all the extra money for $250,000, $300,000. We just don't have that. Another thing is, even like our assessor, our treasurer, they're always after us. We can do a better job if you give us more money. Well, where are we going to get this money from? Everybody comes up with that same thing, saying we can do better if we have more money. Well, okay. What we're going to tell you is we're going to give you X amount of dollars. You're going to have to do the best you can. Now, if you think that the investigator would be better served, maybe you should use the money we give you for an investigator, not so much the prosecutor. I don't know how you're going to have to divvy that up, but this is something I can tell you right now. What you're asking for, there's no way that we can give that to you.
No, let me come back and correct one thing. You did not give me an additional prosecutor. What happened is the young baby prosecutor was paid $50,000 a year, left, and I asked an increased money to hire a more experienced felony qualified prosecutor. Okay, so that's the person who is on staff. If you don't commit $30,000, I will have to fire that person and go for a very junior person. And we'll go back to the days of 2016, where, given what Frank was dealing with, the predominance of what happened in Huerfano County as well as Los Angeles County was the cases, felony cases were dismissed, or all of them, or virtually all of them, were plea bargained to misdemeanors. That's the first part. Okay. I don't disagree, and I put the two pieces in the budget proposal. One is to what the 1/3 would be, but the other was to say what I believe are very appropriate staffing needs to ramp up from where we are. Even more high-level felony trials and convictions or dispositions. Now, I heard 2 public forums, and the public was not talking about in those forums, oh, gee, you ought to work harder. What they were saying was law enforcement was not following up on investigations, and cases were being plea bargained down to misdemeanors. That is not happening, has not happened over the last year. The numbers I've given you are very different than 2016. But I can only do with what I've got. And if the numbers don't increase and I'm asked, I will say, I can only do with what I've got. No longer the past, no longer the, rampant dismissal and misdemeanors. But until I get more money, i.e. an investigator, you can expect not much more than what I'm already doing. And I'm stretching to get where we are. I appreciate it and my commitment to both sets of county commissioners. Whatever the appropriation is, we will bust our tail to get good convictions or dispositions. I've always done that. I've done it in this first year. The statistics are very different than the past, and I'm not going to let up, regardless of what the money is. But that's my commitment to you all, and I do recognize you have competing interests.
Henry, do you foresee going for a ballot initiative in Huerfano County at some point in the future? I don't know you don't, but
I don't foreclose not doing it, and by that I say, I can tell you this year, and the reason going for both was because, given the total circumstances, we had to. Obviously the conversation, I know you have needs, we talked about it even before, in terms of a justice center and other things. If and when we do, I hope to be in a position to, with you all, like we did here, have the ability, and through multiple public forums, to help answer the questions to citizens that I didn't have a hard answer for, other than I could tell them what we've done, like I told you, the numbers I've given. So the answer is, I need to have more revenue to give the citizens, the voters, the residents of Huerfano County the public safety they deserve, I believe. But in that process, I think we're going to have to go together. And you may have other competing needs, and it may be that I don't go for 2 years. It may be that we all try to do something in 1 year. But between now and whenever we do that, we are going to be tracking the information about what those resources can do. And we'll have even more information out of Los Angeles County, not to pit each county against each other, but to show when you have these added resources, this is the result. As I've said to the public, I'm committed to taking our counties back for our citizens. I've filed no less than 50 habitual offender case. I'm getting pleas now in Los Angeles County, where and I charge them with another felony. It is automatic that the sentence is 3 times and 4 times what they otherwise would be convicted. Something that my predecessor didn't do. I'm going to be doing the same in Huerfano to the extent I can. But the threat is really there with the defendants and the defense counsel. When I can show them, you don't like it? Here's my investigator. My investigator is going to prepare the case with the prosecutor so that take your chances. We're no longer going to let anyone escape.
Thank you.
I recall the ballot initiative very similar to Commissioner Lopez as far as when you sold your ballot initiative and we sold ours. And I think when we all did budget, we went off those estimates. We didn't go off of an estimate and then say, well, we're going to bring in some more money. I don't think those ballot initiatives passed by any one single person, but a multitude of people and a team. And I think for the biggest part was, I think the constituents believe in us. And they know that we're going to do what's right. And I just think we need to crawl before we walk or even run. And I think we need to be a little bit more conservative on our budgets. And I think you ought to also. I think we ought to use that estimate or come under that estimate of what you told the constituents, and that's where I think we ought to go.
I understand, but as I said, it was merely an estimate. The language in the thing talks about it as an estimate. But at the end of the day, I need more resources. At the end of the day, we need to be able to ramp up our prosecution. And I cannot do it. And the budget I've given you, based upon both marijuana and sales tax, will clearly accomplish what I'm talking about. But you all have to make the decision you have to make, and I have to look at what that decision is. But quite frankly, we're arguing over money that we're not certain.
It's not the argument. It's not an argument over money. So the concern I have is an argument over the discussions we've had with our community and backing those discussions and sticking to what we told them, what we sold them. Henry, you and I got elected the same year. We got 3 more years to work together. I need that transparency when we talk to our constituents, because at the end of the day, it's going to fall on my lap. And if we're out tooting our horn to do this, we better follow through with that. Because, like I said, the buck stops here with me and with the other commissioners that we sit here. So
while we all talk supportively with each other, I'm the one in the public that sold 1A. I'm the one that spoke to 1A. And always make sure that the first draw should be on the half-cent sales tax to the district attorney's office. And if, after appropriate budget, there is a remainder, that it would not go back, but it would go to other public safety entities. I don't think it's proving or disproving or not faithful to the voters I think what the voters said is they want a ramp up in services. 1A, 1C. But they want a prosecutor's office that will continue to perform public safety and be appropriately funded. And the revenues may only be $580. But we'll know that by April 1. The best projection by then.
How are you going to operate till April 1?
I mean, essentially, and again, I don't want to commit to your county administrator. I mean, part of it is an issue of cash flow. I mean, I am not hiring more people. That is clear. I haven't backed out the numbers for the salaries that are commensurate salaries. I have to do that. But my request is going to be for that amount of money for the first 3 months so that my staff can be commensurately paid. You know, you all, the county administrator, can help inform me as to what you actually think, given cash flow, because we're all talking about cash flow, is the money that you think will be available, whatever that money is, for January, for February, for March, is what I will live with. Even if the revenues, come in later after the fact is higher. That's why basically in the first year there may actually be a surplus from the estimate. But we can talk about that after March 1 or after April 1 when we're talking about real numbers. But Commissioner, I'm not going to add staff. We're going to keep plugging away at what we're doing, which I'm proud of what we're doing, and see if we meet April 1, based upon real information, where exactly we are.
So what is your estimate in needs of cash from now until April 1?
I mean, I haven't run those numbers. I mean, what you were giving me, including, well, let me add one. Essentially, the annualized budget was $221,000. If you divided that by 12, you get what is the amount we were getting. Okay. Now that reflects inappropriate salaries. Doesn't reflect the appropriate with the new salaries. Benefits and other things. One suggestion was you take 580, assuming that's where we are, you divide it by 12, and that's essentially 1/12 of that. I can tell you, given where we are, if you did that, I'd be in second heaven. And I mean that not pejoratively, it's just, you can tell the difference between 1/12 of 220 versus 1/12 of 580. But even with that, Commissioner, what I'm committing to do is only make the adjustments that reflect the staffing I have, appropriate compensation, appropriate benefits, and to the extent that there is an urgency that I come across, my commitment is to come and talk to you about it, talk to the administrator. But that's as definitive an answer as I can give you right now, without crunching the numbers.
Well, it approximately is $54,000 is what you're going to need for the next 3 months. If you're 220 divided by 12, you approximately need $54,000. So
more than that, because it reflects an ordinarily low compensation. The 220 are the salaries that are below minimum, several people, below minimum wage effective January 1.
Okay, so, and you referenced here a while ago that people were being paid $6.08. Why hasn't that been brought, how come they ever brought suit against us?
No, let me tell you, we were lucky they didn't bring suit. That's the dedication of the staff, but that's what I inherited in 2016. We made the adjustment based upon revenue to take them up to $9.30 an hour. But, you know, we haven't made the commensurate adjustment on fringes and all that.
Isn't the staff that was on that, part of a program, to help some of the
No.
over 65?
No.
There was no supplement?
No, we don't pay for those. The numbers I'm talking about are actual staff paid for by the district attorney's office.
And were they supplemented to get an
No.
over?
Actual state, county money cost, not supplemented.
It's my understanding.
Come to the microphone, please.
With regard to staffing and rates that were paid, we did check with our HR personnel, and it was that there was no one that was on minimum wage or below.
Right,
Is that correct?
which reflects the 930 per hour was the lowest salary that was paid.
Okay, so
That's-
that is.
Christie's
So
saying
we're not
no.
paying anybody
And the lowest was
$6.
about $11, that was the lowest.
That is the lowest, 930.
So which is it?
Oh, no,
Were they under minimum wage or were they not?
Hold on, we've got several people, I couldn't quite hear Christie.
Go ahead, tell.
She's indicating that it's about $11.91.
91 cents. That was the lowest.
The lowest.
We'll confirm, but I don't believe that's the case.
Well, payroll officers here.
The only thing that I seen was what he brought me for his work comp people and nobody was.
Can you come and talk?
Kim Chattis for the record. The only thing that I did see was the work comp list he brought me of all the salaries of your entire staff, and there's nobody there that makes $6 an hour. Nobody on that list.
I'm confirming there is no $6 an hour.
I thought that's what you just said.
No, that is not what I said. I said in 2016, Frank paid salaries at $6.80 an hour. When I got on board with Miller, we brought it up to $9.30 an hour for the lowest pay.
Okay, because every year we ask for the same salaries for work comp, excuse me, and we send them on to CTSI. And so had we sent something that was $6.30 an hour, that would have red flagged it and said, oh, we can't take someone that.
And again, let me correct.
Back in 2016,
Kim, let
we
me
didn't do that
correct.
either.
I am not saying in 2017 that we paid $6.80 an hour.
But you said in 16 we did, and in 16 CTSI would have said, we can't do that either.
I am telling, well, first of all, that's the information I have from our accountant. You do not do payroll for us. We do payroll. And therefore, that is the number that I received from the accountant when I first started.
Is that the accountant you released? Is that the accountant you released? You know, terminated?
Yes.
Maybe they were inaccurate. I mean, the insurance would have kicked it back, right? They would have refused it. And then
Unless they didn't give us the right figure for the work comp numbers, I don't know.
And
All I know is, you're right, I don't do your payroll.
Kim,
All I know is what was given to me by your accountant and what Miller gave me.
And Kim, all I'm saying is, it was a mess. Okay, we all agree it was a mess. I'm chewing it up. I have a different accountant. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just telling you that's the information I have. But again, the minimum salary that is being paid, this is what I got from our current accountant, is $9.30 an hour.
And that's what they've been paid
It
since.
does not include fringes and everything else.
That's what they've been paid since you took over? You guys raised their salaries up since you took over?
Once I heard that there was something below minimum wage, having done labor and employment law, having been the solicitor for the U.S. Department of Labor, I was not about it without any more money.
So I asked this question, why bring up the fact that there were $6.80 when it was before your term? It's kind of a moot point for me. What's the reasoning behind it?
My point is the 2 points. One is the minimum wage goes up to $10 an hour. I cannot continue and will not continue that, number one. Number two, that staff deserves no less than comparable pay than your county staff. They work every bit as hard. In fact, they work 5 days a week. And the minimum I heard for a clerical person was $14.77 an hour. The figure I built in is built in based upon not only the function they perform, the time they have worked, but a commensurate salary information from Otero and other DA's offices. And so what I'm saying is effective January. This is not a raise. This is paying people what they, I believe, legitimately deserve for the functions they actually perform. That's why I raise it.
And is the staff the same staff that was here in 2016? Or have they changed? See, 'cause you made a point. That they deserve it, they worked through it, they did all this stuff for all these low wages, and now we need to, are they the same people?
I got rid of a part-time investigator. I got rid of a clerk person who was doing discovery. Have retained a fair number of staff, added new staff to do the same function. They are new, but they perform a function that should not be at $10 an hour when entry level for the county is $14.77. When entry level for Otero County's DA is slightly above that. The work they perform is measured upon what they have to do and how we work for the courts and the stuff we have to provide for the courts.
And the reason why I ask these questions, Henry, is so we can have true transparency for our people in this community. That's my job to hold you accountable. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So take it personal.
I take no offense by the conversation, because I share the same view, which is people ought to know what we're doing, who we're doing it with, and how it compares. Compensation, performance, everything else, not only to the county, but to other DA's offices. And that's the same for Los Angeles, it's the same for Werfenau. Whatever we get, and you've heard me say this, whatever we get, every time I've been in the public sector, I've always opened up the books, always explained what I've done, stood behind what I've done, and always remember, coming from a blue-collar family, that it's the hard work and tax dollars of my parents, my cousins, my uncles, and others that pay my salary. You won't fight with me over transparency.
And your employees are covered under our insurance, or you buy insurance through us, is that correct? I mean, and you...
Right now, right. Because they're coming through the county system, we have not chosen to try and go independent on insurance. And I'm still wrestling with that issue, because part of the issue is we have people who are not on the county insurance. I'm also hearing that we have family members, people who have families, who the way the system is operating by my predecessor, not everyone got fringe benefits related to insurance. I've got a person who has a son who she's on the county system, but her son is not, because the prior predecessor paid only $700.
Wait a minute, you pay $700? We pay $651 to our employees.
Frank put in $700, but all I'm telling you is there's a family member, because of the way the health insurance is. If you insure a family, I think the cost runs up to about $1,800 because of the salary that they receive, and the fact that only $700 is contributed. She's got herself on the insurance, but not her son. I will tell you, as a responsible employer, that is not, I believe, acceptable. And we will correct that in the coming year. But there's a lot of fixing that needs to be done, even just on the HR side, given the history.
Well, yes, listening to this conversation about insurance, even because we have different amounts that we pay what Werfenau County pays in insurance compared to a lot of times county pays. So I don't know how you're doing this with the people you have employed in Werfenau County. Looking for this, I see what you are presenting to us to a budget, but I guess I was hoping to have a more detailed budget as to how you're going to present things. And actually, the combined budget just makes it look like it's just two completely separate entities, but you are the district attorney of one district, not two half districts or a third and two-thirds district. Are you see where I'm coming from. Also, in some of the papers sitting here today, I see where last year the budget from Los Alamos County was for $177,498. That was the budget that they had agreed to give you, not 221 that you're talking about. And then also, ours, what we agreed to give you last year was 133, but then we upped that substantially. In listening to what you're talking to Los Alamos County, I know that's kind of their business, but you are going to be working in arrears now for 90 days. Constantly from this date, from January 1st on, you're going to be working in arrears. In other words, they're going to be supplementing your budget until you get your tax revenue in, and that's going to continue on for definitely, because you will always be 90 days behind. Is that true?
Well, let me correct several different things. My budget was in fact 221. They only appropriated 177. They cut it from prior years down to 177 by 50,000, but the city of Trinidad added in 50,000. That's why I get to 221.
But still, that's their budget, not the city. I mean, you really can't incorporate the city. It was a gift.
Well, I am not relying in future years on the city. In fact, the city had committed in 2018 to give another 50,000. And I haven't gone to them to ask for it, but I may have to go to them to ask for part of that since we are doing this transition. But it's not operating in a risk, because whatever the county pays, Los Angeles County pays in each of the months, when the sales tax and the marijuana tax is collected and distributed, it will be for January, February, and March. So it is a cash flow issue, not an arrears issue. And so whatever, if they come out of property tax for each of the first 3 months, when the sales tax money comes in, basically I'm not asking for what they pay me plus what came in. I am saying that I will postpone hiring of new people. But that's what it is, not an arrears, it's a cash flow issue. But the county's going to only be paying me in January, February, and March. What is the amount? The true-up happens when you get your first check. And Pete, you may tell me the first check is anticipated maybe to be in April?
No, Colorado Department of Revenue woman said that we would expect the first revenue in March.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm holding up on new hires until April 1, because then we'll have not only money that comes in, but a better figure as to what in fact the actual revenues will be.
But I want to say something in regards to what Ray said about this is one district, and it almost seems to me like that we're trying to put a line between it. You say, well, Marco County hasn't got the money, so we're not going to do anything up in Marco County, and you were elected out of, wait a minute, you were elected out of both counties, and you need to be up there prosecuting cases up there that need to be prosecuted rather than down here all the time. And that's what I'm hearing you say, is that I haven't got the money to go up there and do that, so they're going to get the short end of the stick.
No, let me be very clear on this. And if I get a little anxious and angry about it, it's because I have committed, and the staffing is according to what each county pays. I do not have staff in Los Angeles do Huerfano County work, and this year I did not have staff in Huerfano do Los Angeles County work. The one person whose salary is predominantly paid by the state, who can prosecute in both counties without this issue of supplementing or robbing from one county to another, is me. I am the only one person on staff, and I currently prosecute counties in both, or cases in both counties. But the point I say that is, and why it looks like two different staff, is I was able, based upon the money they had, to fund the staff in Huerfano. And I did not use Los Angeles County money to fund that staff. Similarly, when they gave me an increase in money, I did not use the staff from Huerfano in this last year to shore up the limitations I had in Los Angeles County. So that's why it may look like for budgeting purposes and staffing purposes, like two different counties, but I prosecute in both. We do the best we can in both. Now, occasionally, I will send an investigator or an attorney from one to the other to fill when someone's out or something like that. But that's why I'm very precise. Because of the way you fund, that's how I operate. But I give the same service as best I can between both without taking money and staff in one county and shifting it to the other. I won't do that to you all. And I haven't done it to you all.
Henry, I do understand the cash flow in the two counties. Would you, just so I'm clear when I walk away from here, go over with us what it is you're asking for in Huerfano County? What's your current staffing and what are you asking us for?
What I am asking for in Huerfano is essentially to carry over, and Commissioner, I'm working, and I looked over at John, I'm working off of a figure of 199. Now, part of why that figure may be different is I know the way you all do the budget, there's a part of utilities and other things that you cover. So if I'm off by some amount, it's I believe those pieces, and I'm looking over at John to sort of get confirmation of that. What I am asking for is the existing staff that I have, at a minimum. Scrap the other two, which we're talking about, if you could find more money.
Yep.
Okay. What I'm asking for is essentially the 199, 221, which is currently where I am. That's the senior prosecutor, that's the clerks that I already have, and it's the one person who was doing E-Force and helping with E-Force, who I would transfer over in terms of function to help follow up like the investigator would on the files that I was asking for. So that's what I would ask for, just the continuation over. John helped me, 199, 221, whatever is that figure.
199, 669, I think.
Am I correct? Was it 199, John?
John Belushi, Huerfano County Administrator. It's actually 212.
Which includes utilities and the other pieces, correct?
5,000.
No, I understand, but that's the point, is I went off the figure that, without incorporating
I get it.
the indirect you covered.
And in addition to that, you would like to hire, if we had money, could come up with it, 2 additional staff.
Well, ultimately what I'd like to have in Huerfano is a full-time investigator, a full-time paralegal, and 1 more clerk position.
Okay.
But again, that's in the out years, quite frankly. I mean, unless you come up with some revenues that, and I understand the competing interest.
Yeah.
If you can give me the 221, I will be very happy. I won't be exceedingly happy, but I will be very happy. And I believe we can start ramping up the prosecutions even higher.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You know, the interesting part of this whole thing, and Miller sort of said it, is, and again, back to Los Angeles, is what a difference that we're arguing over a whole different platform of what monies voters have been able to suggest to be the county. Had they not, we'd all be in difficult. Second part I would say is a commitment. I recognize your responsibility and your independence. I've said that even on the campaign trail for the initiative. And the fact that you ratify questions, that's your job. The fact that I push back is my job. But we are definitely in a better situation. And I believe our citizens and our residents are going to be better for it in Los Angeles County. I think we're going to get there in Huerfano County. As I said, this office is not the office it was in the past. what we're accomplishing in terms of convictions and plea bargains are better. I think we can be even better. But whatever decision you want to make, I respect you for it. I may fight like very hard on signatures, but I will serve the citizens and the residents with my full energy. I've been doing it for 11 months. Many of you see me at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. Some of you see me at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, virtually every night. Because I believe that we can turn this community around. Like Commissioner Lopez has said, we're now seeing people, because of what the voters have done, believing that they now have a community in counties, both counties, that they can come back to. Public safety, I believe, is a very important part of that. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be the district attorney. I'm honored to have these hard discussions with you. And you are right. You expect and should get full, complete, truthful information from me. And you will.
Okay, we thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Andrew.
We're going to take 5.
No, he left. Oh, he just wanted me to tell you he had left. Okay.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'll come back down periodically, check on it.
I just started laughing.
Did you say you were leaving?
The interview.
I think we'll go on that way.
That's right. Please do. Okay, thanks. Tom,
Are we still live?
It's just easier for me to leave it running. I know where he's coming from.
Money can help solve problems.
I can see their board cares. And he also the same thing with us, that they bring in more money than what he needs. Now he said, oh, yeah, all that money's fine, whatever comes in. And I know it's not getting they're operating, but they are because the revenue's not coming in for many days.
Right.
So this is the happy day over here, huh?
It's just the table that's full.
The food, yeah.
Yeah.
These are very good. They're really good.
Which one?
I think there's something wrong with it.
Oh, that's what we do. Okay, well, on your recommendation,
How are you, ladies?
Good. How are you?
I'm well.
You ready for Christmas?
yeah, but I don't have to do anything to get ready.
Oh, you got one gift to buy.
Yeah, I do that. I have to do that.
The rest of them are up for grabs, but you better do one.
You're right.
Does everybody come home? You go.
We usually go up there
That's
to
good.
Denver. Boys and, yeah. But makes it pretty easy.
You bet it does.
As long as there isn't a snowstorm or something. Bill, how you doing?
I think we moved to the banana belt. We don't have to worry about snow.
Doesn't seem like it's gonna snow. Gonna snow? Not for the next 14 days, according to what I've read.
It's snowing.
Not for this next week. No, it's supposed to be good. For a little while.
Be good to get a little rain.
And it looks like the snows we've been getting are about 3 inches, 2 inches, depending where you're at.
I just sent you this sheet with the changes and then.
Yeah, that's
Just do that. So all this makes up for December. That's December. And like it's a big period. So next year, she's going to yeah, make sure, your people are going to leave.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. We're still live, I think, right?
Hey, you weren't there making this?
My cousin John had a
And more to come.
I'm sorry to hear that. But your wife was there.
I
Where
was
were
in,
you?
I was in, oh, sorry, I was in San I was in the week before, cutting all the trees for you.
Hey, I'm an aunt, I'm not a mom.
No, me and Joe are actually, well, actually, the kids are doing a great job too. Just such wild horses.
Yeah, so that's what Emma said, she was.
Once I start seeing the sad mothers, and my wife didn't love the highest one, and the trees right here. Where you going? Had to go to exit 2.
But that was great.
That was just the limbs, the valleys of it, you know? I think we made 4 or 5 or somewhere. They closed it earlier.
That's good. I know that you guys, they were done quick, because
There's a little
everybody went over early, and my niece was here, and she went over to South Carolina. Honorary business.
for French.
Yeah, she works the, when she's not there, she helps her with the
We got 2,000 budgeting. Lottery funds. I mean, those kids, and even the adults, you walk off the back, you're gonna break your leg. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, they all went over early, so I didn't know what to look for too.
Yeah, I go next one.
Everybody, I mean, they were cleaning up and sweeping up and stuff. Wow, that was quick this year. That was quick.
It's a good group, we're glad to be part of it. It's a good
Oh,
group of
it
families,
is a good group.
and everybody works well together, so. And I see these little boys carrying the big old horse panels, like, yeah, they keep carrying that. I go try to be like the little boys, and pop my back out, and still.
That's right. Well, I'll help you boys.
Yeah, I'll supervise.
That's it.
We like it, the kids like it, they're gonna have fun this year. Maybe shooting sports. I like things. Those are the best ones, gotta be. Chickens, turkeys. There's nobody that's turkey. We'll win. We'll win. Champion and everything. $500.
That's it.
Anyway. Here we go with this one.
This was
The nice thing about
10 minutes.
this ankle. Okay. Had the one with the 12-inch off-road wheel. So I went all over that thing. Yeah, I got it. 24, 34, and it's got on my subtator. It's a joint underneath the
The reason Gerald's not here, he's in hospital.
Yeah, that's what they said. They called me last night. You'll make it tomorrow. You already had hospital. He said he had one other time, about 6 years ago. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They didn't realize that. She did not have zeros.
Yeah. I did already. Yeah.
I think it's too.
I see you have an audit. Thank you. Well, I guess we're on to the Los Angeles County's District Health Department. Kim, state your name so they know who you are.
Kim Gonzalez, Los Angeles County's District Health Department Executive Director. And I'd like to thank the commissioners for allowing us to present our budget and the continued support that we've had throughout the years, bringing our health department back up to where it's at today. It took a lot of mending fences and working together, and I think it's really proven where we're at today. In your packet, as you can see, you'll have side A and side B. Side A is our budget information, and side B, you will have information about our services and the health department. So first, I'd like to start with side A. As you can see, Huerfano County, we are asking for level funding. That's due to not having a decrease last year. They kept us at the level funding. In Los Angeles County, we are asking for a 20% increase, whereas last year we took a 24% decrease. We, towards the bottom, have our population census from 2010 and 2015, and honestly, I don't think that really reflects the population that we have within our communities in both Los Angeles and Huerfano right now, with the influx of transients and people moving in. So we're seeing a lot more services than what the estimated 2016 population is.
Okay, so you're seeing more in both or more in ours?
More in both. Yeah.
So they may be up to like 40% renewal.
Nice try, but I think we're comparatively we're 20%.
On the next page,
There's more.
We have our executive summary. Again, we'd like to thank you for our continuous support and generous allocations that you have given us throughout the past years. The Health Department has made significant strides as a successful 2017 budget. Staff has worked hard towards strategies and goals that we have identified in our Public Health Improvement Plan. In addition to the other programs that we offer within the agency. As we go forward in 2018, we are required to do our community health assessment, and that is going to help us develop our next 5-year Public Health Improvement Plan, which is due at the end of 2018. So that's where we identify our priorities within our 2 communities. Last year, both of those priorities were the same in both communities, substance abuse and obesity. So this year it could change, this year it could add more to what we have already. In 2018, I believe in February, I'll have a class of students coming down from the University of Denver, the public health students that are majoring in public health, to help us do this community health assessment. And I have that worked out for us.
Kim, a question before we go on. You said that obesity and substance abuse. What did you see? Have you seen any changes when you implemented those plans? Have we seen any results?
We have. So substance abuse can go also with mental health as well. So we're seeing where we have the CTC program, which focuses on your 18 and under population with substance abuse. And we're seeing our 18 and over population, we brought in a program called the Opioid Prevention Project. So we haven't seen direct changes yet, but we're going to start working more. We also had the Vivitrol clinic with the substance abuse at the health department. It's called our New Start Clinic, where we were administering Vivitrol shots to people through Crossroads and probation, working that way. We've been working with the Drug Task Force here in Los Animas. We work with the Horfenal Coalition in Walsenburg. We've formed a coalition through CTC in Walsenburg with trying to work towards these goals. So it's a very slow process. It's not an overnight change. And again, trying to find the projects and the funding to move forward in these with the state. It's really always based on what the state focus is for the year, is where we see a lot of the state funding come down. So now that they actually named public opioids an epidemic in public health, so that's where we're going to start seeing more of the funding coming down too. And we'll see more programs coming in both counties for that. We just brought in a naloxone training, which is Narcan, I believe last week, and the week before. And we'll be bringing those more in both counties. We brought in opioid presentations, which is helping the doctors in both communities follow the CDC guidelines on prescribing opioids. So we're trying to touch in many different ways with substance abuse.
So once this funding becomes more available, you're kind of ramped up to be able to take advantage of it.
We are. I have hired a project specialist. With the funding, we worked with Rick Ritter in Otero County Public Health and collaborated and built our funding together to hire one person to cover 4 counties with this project. We felt it was a better fit to have them in Los Animas County because we're the bigger district, and then she works the other 2 counties.
One other thing, I happen to be the chairperson, but Ray Garcia happens to be the chairman. I don't know this.
Did I miss that? I'm sorry. I apologize. So in 2017, the budget.
I can't.
What do you want us to say?
We're live, I can't say anything.
That's what happens when we run short.
Need more money.
We need more staff. The 27 budget was tight with the cuts from Los Animas County and also state programs. We did do every effort to offset that decrease with grants and contracts. So once we see that we're taking a cut, we go out and find grants and contracts to help offset that deficit so that we aren't spending out of our fund balance. And that we did do. So no funds are spent within the agency unless they are spent out of a grant or a contract. So the health department, as you all know, is a fiscal agent for the HULA early childhood programs, which include systems buildings, Race to the Top, EQIT, infant toddler, Race to the Top, GAE, and CCAP. Raising of America, Cooking Matters, and Temple View, Civic Canopy, and CDOT. She does a lot for one person. We've had this program since 2011, and the past 5 years the health department has recovered $105,857 in indirect cost from her programs, which has helped us tremendously bring that fund balance up. In 2017-28 grant funding, we will be seeing some changes in some of our grant programs. Environmental health, we will see an increase of $19,995 for a radon grant that we just received for the 17-18 year. Waste tire, we will receive again for the 3rd year. That grant does cover 3 counties. It covers Los Angeles, Scorpio, and Custer County. There's another collaboration we have. Environmental health in 17 had received 2 grants that totaled $22,500, and those both do end in December of 17. EPR will see a decrease of $32,959, and that's due to supplemental funding that we did right for last year to help with the project that we had to go forth with emergency preparedness, and so they were able to allow a grant to offset the cost of that project. Communities That Care, which is CTC, was awarded in 2016. This is a 5-year grant, which in that grant we did hire 2 people, one for Orfano and one for Los Angeles. That grant does touch the 18 and under population in risk factors. We did see a decrease of $33,866 for the 17-18 budget, and we hope to continue to see increases because that is marijuana funding that's funding that 5-year project. That is Senate Bill 35. The ASDO project, Association of National Territorial Officials, that grant did end in June of 17. We do continue the work through CQI, which is Clinical Quality Improvement. The program has only allowed us $7,991 this year. So we have collaborated with Mount San Rafael Hospital, Mount Carmel Health and Wellness, Spanish Beach Regional Medical Center in diabetes collaborative grant to help continue our worksite wellness screenings for diabetes and blood pressure, lipid panels, and A1Cs. And with that, we did win a national award this year with our hypertension program through NACHO. And we are the first rural health department in Colorado to ever receive a national award for this type of project. We're pretty excited about that. So we did also write a CCPD grant this past 2 months ago, and we're waiting for an award on that. We will get the award letter next week. And that is going to be another collaboration with Walsenburg, Trinidad, and Otero Crowley. We're going to regionalize with that project. It's our hypertension and diabetes together. So I sat on the award call for that last Thursday and Friday, and we scored one of the highest in Tier 2. And so it looks very good for us right now.
Quick question. Predominantly, who's doing your grant writing?
Myself.
Good job.
Thank you. And then Jennifer Sanchez McDonald does all the grant writing for the HULA programs. She does the early childhood. Worksite wellness will continue for 17-18. We did see a slight decrease. The focus for worksite wellness this year is diabetes pre-screening and worksite going to the work sites and doing the screenings, which we've been doing already, so it just falls right into our scope of work. There's no added additional time into that. The opioid project came to us in August of 2016. It will end in August of 18, but given opioid is a public health epidemic now, we foresee funding increasing in that area. We just haven't heard yet. This program does cover Los Animas, Orfano, Otero, Crowley, and it's a collaboration that we thought was a good collaboration, since we do collaborate with Otero, Crowley on tobacco and healthy communities as well. Our CHAPS funding, which is our Community Health Assessment Planning Services, we did see that restored for 2018, and it's $10,000 that comes from the state. That will help with our public health improvement plan and our community health assessment costs as we go forward with this project in 2018. I will be bringing the students to do the work, but we will have to pay for their travel cost and for them to stay. So it's going to help cover that type of cost. In 2016, our fund balance is $607,600, and in 2018 we expect it to be close to $618,000. Indirect costs projected for 2018 we have at $87,528 in recovered costs. On indirect, we try to capture our indirect on most grants at 36%, and that's what we are negotiating through CDPHE. But there are some federal contracts that we can only capture the 10% on. But if I can get that 36, I will. Federal and state funding, we do continue to see decreases in certain programs, but that's where we try and offset it with other grants like CCPD or ASDO. The health department will continue to serve as the fiscal agent for early childhood education programs, HULA. HULA has seen a huge decrease in funding this last year for 17-18 just due to legislation. She's going to take $109,432 cut out of her budget. So she's out there trying to find grants and contracts to help offset those funds, because she does go out and help the child care centers become quality centers so that they are rated at quality levels. And with the funds that she does have, we will see an increase of $24,425 in indirect from her programs. So in 2016, the health department saw a 4% cost of living increase after 6 years. In 17, the staff, we did not see a cost of living increase. So in 2018, we are asking for a 5% increase in salaries, as well as the 5% increase in health insurance premiums for the 2018 year. So the total funding request for Orfano County in 2018, we're asking for the $1,117,884, and Orfano County, Orfano County, the $1,117,884, and in Los Animas, the $208,099. And I would say this funding is based off of the population, but it's kind of changed after the couple years with decreases and increases in level funding. So
what you're saying, we're still carrying Los Animas County?
no.
It's kind of heavy load for a while. We're getting used to that load, I guess.
With that, we have tried to increase services in Orfano County as requested by the commissioners last year. We brought in the opioid project with CTC. We are trying to increase our WIC clientele. We have brought up a diabetes educator to Orfano County that's going to start doing, she started doing screenings at the health department. She's doing classes. They have a cooking letters class for diabetes coming up in January. She goes and helps with the pre-diabetes screenings at the county, but it's paid for by Mount San Rafael Hospital. There's another collaboration we have to help decrease costs. So it's just been a great. And as we go to the next page, our budget line item summary. This basically just goes through revenues, and you'll see it's for the past 3 years on here. As you can see, Los Animas, we're asking for a 20% increase. Porfano, level funding. Per capita has decreased a little bit, and that is based off of population in both counties. But it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't show the, and that's due to the early childhood education programs, EPR supplemental, WIC supplemental, and the FDA grants. Services and fees, we will see an increase there. Environmental health will have an increase in retail food licensing this year. A standard retail food license is typically $330 for 17, but it will be going up to $360 for 2018. And with that, our marijuana fees will be following that same increase. So that instead of the $360, they'll go up to $330, they'll go up to the $360. We also have seen an increase in our vital statistics, having the EDR system allowing us to issue death certificates throughout the state versus just being able to issue for each county that the person has passed away in. It's also added an increase in our funding with that new EDR system. As we go down, you'll see expenses. There, with salaries and fringe and retirement, we're asking for the 5% insurance and 5% salary. Under drugs, we are asking for a slight increase. That's due to the increase in flu shots. We're getting the quadricept flu shot, which is a 4-strain, and that actually is a higher cost than the 2 strains or the 3 strains. So it's just a little bit more cost that but we're seeing it more effective on the population. Travel and training, has gone down. That's just due to the early childhood programs not being able to provide continuing education and professional development for child care providers with the cost cuts that she is seeing. So she typically can send people at the licensed child care centers to professional development classes or different things throughout the state that they need for their licensing and credentialing to be part of that early childhood center. QI travel and training, that is an increase because we are going to be hiring 2 new environmental health specialists. One director, John Martinez, is retiring as of May 2018. He's going to stay on a little bit longer. And Carrie Tavi, our environmental health specialist, will be ending with us December 31st. So we'll be hiring 2 staff there that will need to be traveling to the state and Alamosa for training with what they need. Vital stats, we will be hiring 1 more person, and she will be starting January 2nd. That's part of our administrative secretary, vital stats, board of health secretary. We combine everything to make 1 person.
Cross training?
Yes. So we've been short that person for the past 5 months, and so once we get that person on, we will be sending them to the state for some training as well. So that's why the clerical hair. Also with staff that we have, whether it's nursing, myself, the business manager, we encourage the continuing education in each department to keep up on statutes and regulations of what's going on with public health. The next major change we have is dues and memberships. That, of course, is always increasing depending on which organization it is. Services rendered, we're going to see a decrease, and that is due to the early childhood education programs, or opioid project, and the EPR supplemental funding. Office supplies, again, decrease quite a bit, and that's the early childhood education programs, our opioid project, EPR supplemental, and WIC supplemental. So typically every year we get a chance to apply for supplemental fundings in certain programs. So this last year I applied for WIC supplemental and EPR supplemental for different things in those programs. Equipment cost is a decrease, and that's due to the EPR supplemental, because most of that funding was for the EPR exercise that we put on. Educational supplies, again, that's a huge decrease. Most of that was the early childhood education program, and that's because she provides all that educational material to those licensed daycare centers, family homes, and friend daycare centers. So that's where a lot of that funding decrease is coming. Duplication, again, that was the FDA grant and early childhood education. With the FDA grant, we did make up packets for retail food licensing centers to make sure that they are following FDA standards within their facilities. Advertising, again, decreased. That's early childhood education programs. And as we go down further, it's just rent, utilities, maintenance and repairs. And then towards the bottom, you'll see capital expenditures. We're looking at replacing another one of our vehicles, selling one of the little trucks and upgrading that since it's going to be 6 years old. Any questions?
I have one. You've spoken a couple of times about the increased population in both counties. Where are you seeing what services are getting taxed with that increase?
Immunizations and WIC right now. And then also our environmental health department is having to go out on a lot more calls. Like this last week, I sent one of the gentlemen out to go find a homeless camp up behind Walmart. And so now we're working on finding the property owner and getting that squared away. So it's just little things here and there that's causing more of our time.
And you've kind of figured that into your budget?
Yes.
That this is probably going to be ongoing for
quite a while. Yeah.
It's free camping back there.
Well, I'm sure it's not the only campsite. They're all over, so when we hear about them, we go and investigate it and try and take care of them. We also, like last week, we just had with Walsenburg, the water changeover, where the water was out scheduled for 12 hours, but the state was on us making sure that retail food licensing facilities were taken care of, childcare facilities were closed, schools were closed because of the no water out there. So that takes extra time when you have those type of calls to work on.
I'd like to point on that issue with the homeless. We had an incident situation here in town, and the city PD couldn't do a darn thing. We called the Kim's office, and it was cleared up. They were removed. So it is a huge importance for Department of Health to still have oversight and control of these things and authority.
And we always fall back on statute when we go forward with these issues. So we're looking at a net increase for the year of $16,915 with the budget for this year.
Well, when I look at your fund balance, where it's going to be, it looks to me like for the next couple of years, we don't be putting money in.
Not as much anyway.
Well, even more calls were going on. More training with new staff. It's that is a real hit that we're taking, losing 2 environmental health specialists this year. So we do have a new director coming in starting January 9th for the environmental health director. She's coming from Grand Junction with 11 years of general environmental health behind her already. So there's a few pieces that she's just not familiar with, like the marijuana, the new FDA standards, and the new program we work on through ACELA. So we'll send her up for those trainings. But I think we're going to be very pleased with the new person that's going to replace John. And she is certified in like water quality and some other areas as well. So as we go to the next page, this is just a comparison of expenditures. And as you see under grant programs, you'll see like the difference in 2017 to 18 funding. WIC, of course, that 7,308 is the decrease. That's that supplemental funding that we received this year. EPR supplemental funding. Radon was an increase because 17 we only saw 8,000, and now this year we wrote the grant and it's 19,995. And then from Hula Council all the way down to Temple Buell, that is a $109,000 cut right there with her early childhood education programs. So she will be rewriting the Temple Buell grant for 2018 here shortly once the application process comes available. CDOT she just rewrote, and we're waiting to hear on that grant. That helps with our car seat safety program and helps us train quality car seat installers. The ASDO project is our Million Hearts initiative project that ended in 17, so we did write a grant for CCPD. We're waiting to hear on that. CQI will be ending in the end of 2018. Worksite wellness was a slight decrease. And then our CTC, Communities That Care, that was an increase, and that can always increase every year as long as marijuana sales increase. So we can always write for more funding there. Our Baby Bean Tobacco Free saw a slight decrease, and that program does allow moms that are smoking to quit smoking, and at the end of that program they get free diapers for their babies after that. And then our opioid prevention project we have for 17 and 18, and I'm hoping to see an increase there, but we won't know until they work on the budget at the legislation level. So of course we, as you can see, we don't spend more than what we have. We are less, we have decreased our revenue, our expenses to our revenue, because we've been in bad times 4 years ago, and we never want to go back into that hole again. Right? So we are very conscious. We do the cost containment of each program every year to make sure that they are not exceeding what they had in their budgets. Any questions so far? So as you go back to the next 5 pages, every program is broken down. And I don't know if you want me to go through each one of those. It's basically all on the summary sheet that we went through after the executive summary. We have the first page is your core grant public health programs that are required by statute, administration, public health, environmental health, and vital statistics. And then after that, I've broken out every grant that we've had the past 4 pages, the next 4 pages after that. And you'll see their budgets there. So. And then as we go forward on side B, we have our 2017 service summary. And this service summary just shows a breakout of every program that we have within the health department, a little blurb about what that program is. And then page 8 on that, we have our collaborations and coordinations with different departments. That's 8 and 9. On B10, we have our service summary units, and that's based out of our 16 numbers. So there it shows each program broken out, Los Angeles, Workville, and Custer County, because we do service Custer County for environmental health services. So we break out Custer as well. And that's just off of all of the tallies that we work with the staff on and put these sheets together. On B12, we have, it's called our special consideration page. It talks about our staff increase or decrease at the top. Like in 17, we added our opioid prevention project. We still do not have a full-time environmental health person up in Walsenburg because we have the 2 here and they just work the 3 counties out of this building. We are short still administration secretary, board of health secretary / vital stats. Got a little hard titles. And then also our HULA program is not able to fund an assistant for all of the stuff that she does. So new services that we added to in 2017 was the Race to the Top GAE, which was under early childhood education. The opioid prevention project, which is helping your 18 and over population and opioid prescribing guidelines. And then we also added our hypertension and diabetes collaboration. We always had those 2 separate, and it's all the same people at the same table, so we said let's combine them and work together and have 1 constructive meeting rather than 2 meetings per month. And then next it just talks about child service activities at the back. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. It is refreshing to see this kind of presentation on the budget as compared to our.
Thank you.
You don't have any questions because everything is laid out here, and I appreciate that because you're saving me a lot of time, and thank you for that. But it's very professional. You've done a wonderful, wonderful job. I can't speak for the whole group, but you've done a really good job.
And that's what I was going to say. I would also ask you to extend our appreciation to the board. Compared to 4 years ago, whoosh, you guys dug yourself out of a very deep hole, and it's because of all the professionalism. You really have done a marvelous job. And thank the board as well. I know there's a couple members here.
I couldn't do it without the board, and the board has been so supportive and has allowed me to help this agency and where we're at today. And my goal is to continue growing the agency and growing programs and going after more of these national recognitions.
I don't know what it was like before, but Gerald and I sit on this board, and it's a pleasure. I look forward to that meeting every month because of the professionalism and the caring and how good they are. Kim is about getting the grant money. I mean,
You'd be commended.
I really enjoy it. Yeah. They do a really, really good job there.
And
This is complete transparency. This is what I've been wanting for since I got here. Thank you.
Good luck.
I was able to get my flu shot too.
good.
I'm good.
If not, we still have a few more left. If anybody has some confidence. And we do have the quadriceps, so it's very effective this year.
Thank you again.
That's it. And also, you have your audit reports in your package as well. So it wasn't 10 minutes, but
Not bad though. Thanks, Kim.
Can we go home?
Thank you for coming and seeing us. It's always good, to have people come to visit our town.
There you go. Hey, person.
Mac, I just want to say about the chairperson versus chairman, well, Los Angeles County that has a reputation.
He can't help himself. He can't help himself.
Is it Mac or Michelle?
Well, thank you guys. Come up and see us.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, Gerald was sorry he couldn't be here.
Oh,
Got stuck in the hospital, so.
hope he's okay. Send our
Yeah.